3 Medicaid estate recovery rules just shifted, and if your name or your late spouse's is on a paid-off house, the state can now come back after death and try to take that home to repay long-term care. Unless you make 3 specific moves, nobody is ever going to mail you. Before I show you the first one, do me one small thing. Subscribe and tap the bell so you never miss a benefit, an exemption, or a deadline change that could protect your home. Picture a man I'll call Raymond, 71 years old. His wife spent her last 2 years in a nursing home, and Medicaid paid the bill thousands of dollars a month, month after month. Then she died, and for half a year, nothing. Raymond grieved. He kept the porch light on. He paid the property tax like he'd done for 40 years. That house is paid off, no mortgage. The deed is free and clear, the one thing he and his wife built to leave behind. Then a letter came, state letterhead, a claim against his wife's estate for every dollar of care Medicaid had covered. And the biggest thing in that estate, really the only thing, is the paid-off house Raymond is still sitting in. If you own a home, and you or your spouse have ever been on Medicaid for long-term care, do not click away. This is the letter with your family's name on it. Raymond did nothing wrong. He didn't hide money. He didn't cheat anybody. He followed every rule they gave him. And here's the part that should make you sit up straight at your own kitchen table. Nobody whose job it is to collect that money is ever going to call and tell you how to protect the home first. 3 of these recovery rules just moved. I'm going to walk you through each one in plain English, no jargon. And the third, the undue hardship waiver, is the one worth the most and the one most families skip right over. So stay for it. On every single rule, I'll tell you exactly who it helps. If you're a widow living on Social Security and almost nothing else, this is for you. If you're a couple who never had much except one good asset, the house, this is for you too. Do not count yourself out. My name is Walter Hayes. For more than 15 years, I've read the fine print of these programs for ordinary families. I've sat at kitchen tables like yours, watching good people read a letter exactly like Raymond's. I don't sell anything. I don't work for the government. I just read the rules so you don't have to. Let me clear up the biggest myth first, because this is exactly how good families get scared out of their own home. No state takes your house the day you sign up for Medicaid. That is not how it works. But what is real has a name. The Medicaid Estate Recovery Program, MERP. It's required under federal law, OBRA, 1993, and it applies to anyone 55 or older who receive long-term care through Medicaid. After you die, the state can go to your estate and ask for that money back. And we're talking real money. Long-term care can run $6,000 or $7,000 a month. So after a 2-year stay, the claim can climb well past $100,000. That's the machine. Honestly, the intention behind it isn't evil. The problem is simpler than that. The system is just not built to walk over to your kitchen table and show you the ways out. So ask yourself one thing right now. Has anyone, a caseworker, a clerk, a single soul, ever handed you the form that protects your house? No. That silence, right there, is the whole problem. Which brings us to Rule 1, the surviving spouse. And here's the good news, and it's real. While a husband or a wife is still living, recovery cannot happen. The state cannot pull the house out from under a living spouse. If you're a widow still in the home where you raise your kids, that rule was written for you. Picture a widow, I'll call her Ruth, 78, in the same little house on the same street since 1970. Her husband's care went on Medicaid the last year of his life. When he passed, a neighbor told her the state would take the house by Christmas. She barely slept for a month. And she was wrong, the law says. While she's alive, they cannot touch it. That fear cost her 30 nights of sleep for nothing. But here's what almost nobody understands. That protection is not what you think it is. It's deferred, not erased. Say that word slow. Deferred. The state didn't forgive the bill, it hit pause. And in a lot of states, the day the second spouse dies, the pause ends. They can still file a claim. They can still put a lien on the house you were sure was safe forever. The permanent protection you were counting on has a clock on it. You just can't see the clock ticking. So here is exactly what to do. And you do it in writing. Call your state's Medicaid agency and ask, on paper, for 2 things. 1, does a lien already exist against this home? 2, I am formally requesting the spousal deferral. Get it in writing, with a date on it, and keep the copy in a drawer you won't forget. Don't take, you're fine, don't worry over the phone. A promise nobody wrote down is a promise nobody has to keep. Ask for it by name and make them put it on paper. But Raymond had a spouse to defer behind. Now think about a different house, the one where the only person left living in it isn't a spouse at all. It's a grown child, the daughter who moved back in, the one who spent 2 straight years, day and night, keeping her father out of that nursing home. There is a rule that can hand her the entire house free and clear. And there is a reason almost no family ever actually collects it. And it's real. That daughter, the one who moved back in and kept her father out of a nursing home for 2 straight years, the law actually says she can keep the house. It's called the caregiver child exemption. Not a favor, not a discount. The whole house staying with her. But before I show you the catch that costs families that house, let me back up one step, because there's a second kind of child the law protects, and this one is even simpler. Here it is, in plain English. A child under 21, or a blind or permanently disabled child of any age, blocks recovery. Flat out. If a son or daughter like that is in the picture, the state cannot come after the home to settle the Medicaid bill. Doesn't matter how big the house is, doesn't matter what county you're in. Who does that help most? The family raising a grandchild under 21. The couple whose grown son has been disabled since birth and still lives at home. If that's your kitchen table, this door is already open for you, but only if someone knows to point at it. And this one doesn't sit on a timer. A disabled son or daughter in that home keeps the door open, not on a clock, not deferred, open. Now, the caregiver child. This is the one most families sleep through. Here's the rule. An adult child who lived in the home and provided care that delayed nursing home placement for at least 2 years can keep that house. 2 years. Under the same roof, care. That's the reason mom or dad stayed home instead of going into a facility on the state's dime. Do that, and the home is yours to keep. And notice what those 2 years really mean. That's not a technicality. Every month that daughter kept her father home was a month the state didn't pay for a nursing bed. The law is simply saying, you already carried that load, so the roof stays yours. Fair, clean, and almost no family ever collects it. Picture your own kitchen table for a second. Who lives in your house right now, and could they prove they kept you out of a nursing home for 2 years? Hold that answer, because that word prove is where the whole thing turns. The exemption is on the books, but you must prove it. Nobody mails the proof form. Let me say that plainer. There is no envelope. No caseworker drives out to your street, knocks on the door, and hands your daughter a packet titled, "Here's how to keep the house." That's not how any of this works. The proof is something you build, by hand. The date she moved in, the timeline meals, medication, the driving to appointments, the nights she didn't sleep, and the piece that seals it, a letter from the doctor saying in writing that her care is the reason her father stayed out of a facility for those 2 years. Doctor's letters. Dated records. A calendar you can lay on the table and point to month by month for 24 straight months. Think of a wall calendar with 2 years of days crossed off the appointments, the bad nights, the good ones. That calendar is worth the entire house, but only if it exists on paper before anyone asks to see it. Being legally entitled and actually getting paid are 2 completely different things. Read that again. Let me put a face on it. Picture a daughter. I'll call her Denise. She quit half her shifts and moved in with her dad for what turned out to be his last 2 years. She fed him, she managed his pills, she kept him home. Then the letter comes. Now Denise, with nothing assembled, no dated record, no doctor's letter, the house drops straight into the estate, and the state's claim stands. Same Denise, same 2 years, but this time with a dated care record and 2 letters from his doctor in her hand keeps the house. Same daughter, same love. The only difference is the paperwork sitting in front of her. And I want to kill a thought some of you are having right now. That's for poor families. That's not us. Stop. This has nothing to do with being poor. Read the rule again. It doesn't ask your income. It asks one thing. Who physically lived in that home and did the caring? A middle-class family with 1 daughter who moved back in qualifies just as squarely as a family with nothing. The paid-off house is the biggest thing most of you own, and the law doesn't hand it over faster because you're broke or slower because you're comfortable. It looks at the roof and who was under it. So don't count yourself out at your own kitchen table. That's exactly how the house ends up sold to the state, a family that qualified, sitting on its hands because they assumed the rule was for somebody else. Here's what I want you to actually do with Rule 2. Call your state Medicaid estate recovery unit. Every state has one. And ask by name about 2 things. the protected child exemption, and the caregiver child exemption. Say those words. Make them tell you what your state requires. Then, and this is the part that matters more than the phone call, start gathering the proof now. Not after somebody dies, not after the letter lands, now. If there's a child in that home doing the caring, start the record today. The move-in date, a simple dated log, and a conversation with the doctor about a letter. Because the family that assembles the file while everyone is still alive keeps the house. The family that goes looking for 2 years of proof after the notice arrives is already losing the race. That's the whole trap. The rule is generous. The clock and the paperwork are what quietly cost families the home. But hold on, because maybe none of that is you. Maybe there's no surviving spouse to defer behind. No child under 21, no disabled son or daughter, no caregiver who can lay down 2 clean years of proof. Maybe it's just a house and one heir living in it, and a claim from the state. Is that family finished? Does the home just go, no? There is still one door left, the one I told you to stay for. And I need you to understand something about this last door before we walk through it. It closes faster than any of the others. On many state clocks, you get 30, maybe 60 days from the day the notice lands on the table, and then silence counts as yes. Here's how that last door actually works, and it's simpler than the fear makes it sound. It's called the undue hardship waiver. The rule underneath it is short enough to say in one breath. If the heir lives in the home and it's their sole asset, or their income sits below a threshold your state sets, recovery can be waived. Not deferred, not reduced, waived. The claim against the estate steps back, and the house stays with the family. This is the one I told you to stay for. If you act on a single thing in this whole video, it's the next 90 seconds. Who does this door help most? 2 people. The heir whose only real asset is that house. No big savings, no second property, just the walls they live inside. And the low-income heir still living there whose fixed income falls under the line their state draws. If that's you, or that's your son, or your daughter who moved back in to care for you, this is the exemption with your name on it. Nobody at that state office is going to call and point it out. You have to reach for it. Now the gap. Because this is the one that quietly costs families the house. And I don't want it costing yours. The waiver window is short. In many states, you get 30 to 60 days after the recovery. Notice that letter I keep talking about, the one that lands on the kitchen table and then the door swings shut. And here's the part that should make you sit up straight. If you say nothing, if you let those weeks slide by while you're grieving and sorting through a dead husband's paperwork, the state doesn't read your silence as, I need more time. It reads it as agreement. Silence counts as consent. You never signed a thing, you never said yes. But not asking inside their system is the same as saying yes, and the claim stands. Read that again. The clock isn't a suggestion. It's the whole game. Picture a widow. I'll call her Ruth. The house is all she has, and her income sits under her state's line, which means she qualifies for this waiver clean. The notice arrives. Ruth reads it, her stomach drops, and she assumes what most people assume, that a letter from the state is a decision already made. So she does nothing. The window passes. The claim stands, and the home she qualified to keep goes toward the bill. Had she picked up the phone and requested the undue hardship waiver in writing, inside the deadline, the house stays hers. Same widow, same house. 2 completely different endings, and the only thing standing between them was a form nobody mailed her. Let me put a real number on what's at stake, because the estate stays abstract until you see it. Take a paid-off home worth about $220,000. Using the right exemption on that house isn't a discount. It isn't knocking a little off the bill. It's the difference between the whole home staying with your family, your kids, your grandkids, the porch you paid off slowly over 30 years, and that same house sold off to the state to settle the account. $220,000 kept or gone on one written request inside one short window. That's not a technicality. That's the roof over the people you love. Now, remember Raymond? The man whose wife spent her last 2 years in the nursing home. The letter that showed up 6 months after she died, claiming her estate for the care Medicaid paid for. Raymond did nothing wrong, and the biggest thing in that estate was the paid-off house he was still living in. One written, undue hardship request, filed inside the deadline, would have ended that letter the day it came, not fought it in court for years. Ended it. He didn't know the option existed. Now you do. Before I hand you your list for the week, one warning, because scammers follow money, and this money has a big target on it. Medicaid and Social Security do not call you demanding your bank details to settle an estate. That is simply not how any of this works. Whoever calls demanding your bank details to settle an estate is a thief, not the state. Stop. Hang up. You go to them, you call the office, on a number, you looked up yourself, never the other way around. So here's exactly what I want you to do this week. 3 moves. Grab a notepad at your kitchen table and write them down right now. 1. Call your state Medicaid estate recovery unit, every state has one, and ask by name for the undue hardship waiver application and its exact deadline. Say those words out loud. Undue hardship waiver. Make them tell you the number of days. Write that number down. 2. If there's a surviving spouse, get that deferral confirmed in writing, not a promise over the phone, in writing. And in that same letter, ask them plainly whether a lien has already been placed on the home. You want that answer on paper, sitting in your file where you can find it. 3. Gather your proof now, before you ever need it. If an adult child gave care in that home, start the dated record 2 clean years of it and collect the doctor's letters that show the care delayed a nursing home. If there's a disabled child, pull that documentation together too. You assemble it. Nobody mails it to you. That's it. 3 calls, 3 pieces of paper, 1 week. That's the whole distance between a paid-off house and a sold sign in the yard. Now, the honest part I owe you. This is general education, not personal, legal, or tax advice. Everything I walked you through is real, but the exact thresholds and that deadline shift from state to state. So confirm your own with your county, your state's SHIP office, or a qualified professional who can look at your actual situation. I read the fine print. You still have to read yours. And then do one more thing for me. Send this to one person over 65 you love, because nobody official is going to call and tell them, and you might be the only one who does. A son who moved home to care for his mother. A widow sitting in a paid-off house, sure, she's protected. This whole thing turns on somebody knowing the door exists before the clock runs out. Today, that somebody is you. If this helped, subscribe so the next exemption, the next quiet rule, the next deadline finds you before the letter does. Take care of your house. Take care of each other. I'll see you next time.